So welcome to Talking News, guys. Subscribe, like right now so you don't forget. Hit the notification bell if you'd like notifications. Now remember, guys, this intro basically shows you some of the stories that we cover, and it also shows you the people that are still missing. So it's really not an intro for the show. It's kind of like a thing I use to kind of put faces out there so people don't forget we're still looking for these people. So here we go, guys. We are back on the Lori Vallow case, the Chad Daybell, and really it's about Tylee, Ryan, and JJ Vallow. So right now we're on part 2. We might have a part 3, I don't know. But on part 1, we did kind of give you a basic idea of what this story was about. This story is so crazy. I have never seen anything like it. You know, what do you guys, drop it in comments below. Have you guys seen a story like this before? I almost forgot, guys. So in part 1 of the Lori Vallow story, we learned that there were at least 3 to 4 mysterious deaths and 2 missing kids. I have failed to mention to you guys that Lori had she's been married 5 times, but her first husband to pass away, this is according to Fox News 13, was Joseph Anthony Ryan. And of course, that was Tylee Ryan's father. And he looked like he was a pretty fit guy, guys. Yeah, I'll show you a picture here. He died, according to what we know, with a heart attack in 2018. His body was cremated, and he can't be exhumed after all the suspicion that investigators have. So that is sad. So Lori Vallow is a podcaster. She's 46 years old. She's 5'6", 125 pounds, has blonde hair, blue eyes. And so here's a little bit on Chad Daybell. He was a writer, podcaster. Daybell is 51 years old, and he's about 6'3", 230 pounds, with brown hair and blue eyes. So these guys kind of left the main states when search warrants were kind of issued. I guess they knew they were coming, and they left and were found in, I think it was January 27, 2020, in Hawaii. Once this couple was found, they were told or asked to physically produce the children. So when she failed to produce the children by the time that the investigators give her, she was arrested or charged with 2 felony counts of desertion and, non-support of dependent children, resisting or obstructing officers, criminal solicitation to commit a crime, and contempt of court, leaving us with JJ and Tylee still missing. And during this time, the media is coming out saying that, explaining that these families belong to a cult, what are often called doomsday cults, meaning a religious movement whose members believe that a apocalyptic event will soon occur. So I wanted to make sure that I did cover this pretty well. So Lori, there's altogether between Lori and Chad, there's 3 spouses dead. So you have Tylee's father, 2018 heart attack. Then you have, so in July of 2019, July 11th, Charles Vallow is shot by Alex Cox. He claims to be in self-defense after alleged argument. And on October 19th of 2019, there we go. I'm getting a little mixed up with the dates here, so forgive me if I make a mistake. Tammy Daybell is found deceased the morning of that date. But what I failed to mention, and I did that on purpose anyway, is in between all that, there is another guy in the process of a divorce who is married. His name is Brandon Boudreaux. He's married to Melanie Boudreaux, who is Lori's niece. He says that they were in a process of divorce, or at least working towards it, when he had this devastating event happen to him. And guys, this is happening in between what happened to Tammy and Charles. So on October 2nd of 2019, last year. Well, anyway, there's an audio out from Brandon to dispatch that reveals an attempted murder on his life, and he believes that his Melanie, the niece of Lori, was involved in. And according to Brandon, he says, well, he asserts that Melanie had $1 million of reasons to kill him. And he believes that, Melanie was hoping to cash in on the policy to help support the cult that Lori is in and Chad Daybell. He believes that Melanie, his wife at the time, was involved with this cult. But on the dispatch, he is heard saying, it picks up from here. Someone shot at your vehicle, a 911 dispatcher says. He says, yes, they hit my window. They shattered the driver's side window, Brandon says. And according to court documents on this day, it says that the car that was used in the alleged attempted murder of Brandon Boudreaux belonged to Lori Vallow's dead ex-husband, Charles Vallow. So if you compare all the deaths that are happening, or attempted at least, they're all a little bit different. There's some reason why you're doing it, and they're all a lot of reasons that you can't contest. So if it's self-defense, if proven, it's kind of easy to get off. Then you had one that died in her sleep, and then the attempt on Brandon Boudreaux, which would have been a drive-by shooting, if done correctly, would be a difficult, because of the description of it, would be difficult to pinpoint and figure out, most likely, if they would have been successful. So I do want to share what this article said. It said in court documents, Brandon says someone wanted to kill him to collect the life insurance policy to fund occult-like activities he alleges Melanie and Lori are being part of. Brandon said, I just don't know how people can get so wrapped up that they can end up in a space where these people are. It's just so radical, so different. So you can see he was married to this woman, and then all of a sudden it seems like he's kind of insinuating that there was a sudden change in behavior. Now remember, guys, Boudreaux's ex-wife, Melanie Boudreaux, is Lori's niece. So according to Brandon, she began spending more time with Lori and the religious group and suddenly demanded a divorce over the summer. Now we do know that there was about $450,000 on Tammy Daybell's life insurance. This was not something we heard about when that story first broke, and they were trying to keep that on the down low, but now that's coming out that there was a huge sum. That's a pretty big sum of money should Tammy pass away. Now, I haven't had time to do all the research I wanted to, so I don't know how much Charles had on him, but Brandon says in several articles that Melanie Boudreaux had $1 million insurance policy on him. So here we go. We have this guy, Chad Boudreaux, who is in the center of all this, or maybe the leader of this. We're not certain who the leader is over the entire, what they call the cult right now. If it's just them and their little thing going on, or if it's in a bigger group of people. So Chad, if you go read some of his books, which I have, and I have a few that I'm going to go over with you guys when I get time. Reading those books, he seems to be a very concerned person. And he cares about others, allegedly. Doesn't it, seem odd that a man that seems to play this role, that he follows God and he cares about being a good person. Yet right now, there are 3 to 4 adults that are passed away. And then we have 2 children missing. And even as I try to put this in order, the way to tell the story, it's so messed up, and we keep getting new information. It's nearly impossible to get the story out the way I would like. So what we're hearing right now is Chad Daybell, which I told you a little bit about him in part 1, so check that out if you haven't. And then I'm going to go ahead and tell you a little bit more right now. I think you need to know. So actually, I want to start with giving you an idea of LDS, the Mormon Church. So you might find me skipping around a bit, which, yeah, we will. So who is this fourth person that I'm speaking of that possibly died? So there is a few articles and saying that Lori mentioned that Tylee had passed away. The article reads, December 30th of 2019, news release, police say, we strongly believe that Joshua and Tylee's lives are in danger. We are aware that in the weeks after Tammy Daybell's death, Lori Vallow / Daybell and Chad Daybell told witnesses that Lori's daughter had died a year before the death of her father, which is completely untrue. At that same time, Chad told other witnesses that Lori had no minor children. And this is when this story started to break. People were starting to notice that the kids weren't around. And this is when people started to notice that they were also involved with a branch of LDS, or the Mormon Church. And over the years, we have heard a few devastating events or acts on the news on this Mormon or LDS church. And it's very varied, but I'm just going to give you kind of a look into what the negative parts of the Mormon Church are. So one of the bigger things that has made a negative impact on people's outlook on the church is the fact that they practice polygamy, especially in the very beginning at the creation of this teaching, which is in the very early 19th century for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. More than half of the people involved with that group from 1852 to 1890 did practice polygamy. So the founder, Joseph Smith of the Mormon Church, was murdered in 1845. After his death, the Mormons migrated to the Utah Territory in 1847, and there, under the leadership of Brigham Young, who succeeded Joseph Smith, brought the practice of polygamy out of the shadows. So they announced that it's in 1852 that this is an official practice in the Mormon Church. So in modern times, there was it would become less acceptable to support polygamy. And so the Mormon Church was being looked down on, and in 2011, there was a new wave of leaders and members of this group, and one of them was Warren Steed Jeffs. He was the president of the Church of Jesus Christ of Polygamy through the Latter-day Saints. Later on, he was arrested and convicted of 2 felony counts of child sexual assault, which he is currently serving sentence for life plus 28 years. And let me tell you guys, the FBI went after him for a while, but this is not about them, so I'm just giving you an idea. Then there was a guy named James Oller, who's 53, who was found guilty of having 5 wives. He had lesser charges, but this was in Canada. They were sending they were using him as an example to say, look, this is not acceptable in today's society. And the LDS has many, many branches, and each claiming that they're the true Mormon group, and they support different things. But many times there are cult-like groups, what people refer to as cult-like groups, which practice very strange and unusual things, And right now we're talking about very modern times, so 2020, and the Latter-day Saints. Not all of them are like this, but this group that is involved with it, Chad Daybell they're being marked as, you know, a dark doomsday cult. But probably one of the most famous things that they're known for in a negative light is the polygamy. I mean, like Winston Blackmore, he was 61. He was found guilty for having 24 wives and sentenced 6 months to house arrest and 150 hours community service and so on and so on. But this isn't a video about polygamy. But I wanted you guys to realize that the word cult has been attached to the LDS several times. But attaching it to Lori and Chad, I haven't had time to finish my research to stamp that word cult on them from me. I don't have enough evidence there to say they are a cult. So today I want to cover a few more details on this case, especially on the fact that these mysterious deaths, they continue. They're happening in broad daylight in front of people. And I especially wanted to go over Lori's niece, Melanie Boudreaux, because that's a big event in this timeline. And with stories like that coming out with this case, investigators are turning new evidence that suggests that this story and case is far from being over. There might even be more they haven't uncovered yet. And as they search for the missing children, Tylee and JJ, law enforcement say that they're revealing incriminating evidence that is adding new names to the already long list of suspects, victims, and questions. Okay, guys, so you know what I might do here is I might actually go back over the Boudreaux incident. And guys, I am on the go right now, kind of. So you're definitely going to hear a little bit of background noise. I apologize. Okay, so the police say that they were already familiar with Lori Vallow. And this is because of that alleged connection to a possible attempted murder on her niece's ex-husband, Brandon Boudreaux. And according to this article, Arizona police departments requested help from the Idaho police to obtain search warrants for a 2018 gray Jeep Wrangler and Lori Daybell's possession. Which, if I remember correctly, Tylee was driving that Jeep after her father passed away. This Jeep we've been talking about during the shooting. He gives us a little bit more details. He said that he saw a rifle with a silencer come out of the rear window of this Jeep, and that they shot once into the front driver's door frame. According to this article, he was shot at in Gilbert while driving home from the gym. According to Brandon Boudreaux, the bullet missed his head by inches. And the shooter fled, and the investigation on this is still ongoing. Brandon Boudreaux said that he drove away and the Jeep continued to follow him, but eventually turned a different direction. And like I mentioned earlier, this is the same vehicle that was seized in accordance with the search warrant in November of 2019 in Rexburg. Again, this Jeep was registered to Charles Vallow, who was shot and killed by Alex Cox, which was alive still at this time, because now we know that Alex Cox is also deceased. So in this article, Brad was interviewed, and he shared this information with us. I thought it was interesting. I'm going to share it with you. It says, I spent the last 11 years of my life spending time with Lori and her now deceased husband, Charles. I don't know what happened to those kids, but I know there's people who do, and they're not talking. He said, I love them both, and I hope that they're safe. They're both just innocent, and they didn't deserve to be involved in this. So this is where he suggests that there is a huge change. I mean, he's with this family for 11 years. He doesn't seem to have any complaints until the end. So what are these Lori and Chad Daybell and Melanie Boudreaux, what are they involved in? So they're involved with this thing that says, well, it's titled on a website anyways, helping to prepare the people of this earth for a second coming of Jesus Christ. But I have to question whether or not all of this is happening because of this group that they're involved in. We really don't have any proof of that right now. Or whether it's just a selfish act of people trying to get their hands on a large sum of money and giving in to their sins. But I do want to share a few things that's from that website. So there's this guy named Michael James who runs the website. He posted a statement there saying that he strongly denied to Idaho News that this group is a cult. And it says, in October, Nancy and I were out of the country for several weeks on a long-needed family trip. We were deeply saddened to learn of the sudden death of Tammy Daybell, the wife of Chad Daybell, but could not attend a funeral. We considered Chad Daybell a good friend, but have since learned of these things and we had no idea about. As many of you know, Chad was a speaker at some of our Preparing the People events. And he also appeared on several of our Preparing the People podcasts. He goes on to say that we produced a series for Chad called Glimpses Through the Veil. We recently learned that Chad's new marriage to Lori Vallow and a couple of weeks after Tammy Daybell died. Lori Vallow was a contributor on the Time to Warrior Up podcast with Jason Mao and Melanie Gibb. She also co-hosted the Field of Fire podcast with Melanie Gibb. We did not know Lori as well as we thought we knew Chad. In the light of current concerning media reports and ongoing criminal investigations regarding the recent death of Lori Vallow's previous husband in Arizona and the sudden death of Chad Daybell's previous wife in Idaho, and with new reports of Lori's missing children and the death of Lori's brother-in-law and the unknown whereabouts of Chad and Lori, we feel it is inappropriate to promote any media content that may feature or contain references to either Chad Daybell or Lori Vallow. Our hearts go out to Chad and Lori's family and friends who are now affected by this ongoing confusing tragedy. We pray for the truth of whatever happened to be quickly manifest, and we pray for the safe return of Lori's two beautiful children. So it almost seems as if they don't support the ideology of this. They don't seem to be pushing this cult-like behavior. And this is kind of questionable of how, they feel about this case. And you can't help but wonder, what their role in this is, on this case. And with this case kind of pointing toward that group that Chad's involved in, most likely they will be under the microscope at some point. So I'm not really certain where that group stands when it comes to Chad. Well, how did you guys take that statement? Share it in comments below. But what I want to share is Brandon Boudreaux, who is a survivor of this catastrophe. He seems to think that his wife's or ex-wife's religious beliefs are responsible for the problems in their life. And right now, we're not getting many details of why they think this. We're just hearing they got involved with these people that are running these podcasts. And then suddenly, there's this huge change. These people change. They become more evil. There's these crazy events happening all around them. Kids are disappearing. But let me give you an idea of who Chad was before Lori come into his life. But before we do that, I want to, again, go over his wife, Tammy, her background, just a little bit more. So Tammy Daybell, she was 49 when she was found deceased. And so it was in Fremont County. And this is on October 19th of 2019. Initially, it was believed that her death was natural. And she is described as a popular librarian. So after her death and all these things started to happen, authorities learned that her death was suspicious at that point. Her remains were exhumed and an autopsy will be conducted. Her full name was Tamara Tammy Douglas Daybell. In her obituary, it says that she passed away peacefully in her sleep on Saturday, October 19th of 2019 in Salem, Idaho. She was born May 4th, 1970 in California to Ronald and Phyllis Cooper Douglas. So she grew up in the South, so near Anaheim or Southern California, with her Cooper cousins, and was living close to Disneyland. The Orbit says that during her summer following her freshman year in Brigham Young University, she met Chad Daybell. They quickly fell in love and were married on March 9th of 1990 in Manti Temple. While Chad continued his schooling, Tammy supported the family by working as a secretary for Springville's park department. After Chad graduated, he took a job in Utah. Tammy became a full-time homemaker and mother as their family began to grow. She loved her children deeply and encouraged them in countless ways. In 2004, she and Chad founded Spring Creek Book Company, and Tammy wore many hats as their company grew, juggling her role as chief financial officer with designing book covers. She was the true backbone of the company, and she was proud of the dozens of books the company published over the years. So in 2015, the family moved to Salem, Idaho. She became an assistant librarian at the Madison Middle School. She later became the librarian at a Central Elementary School in Sugar City, Idaho. She was treasured and loved by the staff and students alike. So it's very, very clear that, Tammy seemed to be a woman that had everything together. She was the glue of that family. She was definitely the support, and Chad has written it many times. And I actually found a website where he contributes his book or gives tribute to his wife. Now, I was going to go over Chad in this video, but guess what, guys? I hit my limit, so I'm going to have to do a part 3. I'm sorry about that, but you know what? It gives me more time to put more details in because we have uncovered some new information. So right now, Lori, the mother of Tylee and JJ, is behind bars in Hawaii awaiting extradition. She has asked multiple times for the court to lower the bail, and they have refused to do so, thank God. Lori Vallow has decided not to fight this and just to go back to Idaho. So we have a few minutes left. I will cover Chad on part 3 and a few other things that you guys have probably never heard. But right now I want to cover something that I can cover quick. Now, a lot of people are saying that they believe that everything that is happening around this family, the Vallows and the Daybells, they believe it's because of the religion, and they're also calling it a doomsday cult. And what I know about this group so far is I haven't found anything odd happening within their group other than they're preparing for this ultimate end. This means that they're preparing by buying charcoal, stocking up on food, sending out messages, and they're talking about it through podcasts. What Chad and Lori Vallow are doing has nothing to do with what I can tell what they call a cult is doing. What it looks like to me is, so far, and this is speculation, is Chad and Lori consider themselves to be above all godly. And I have been doing some research on Lori just recently. I've done research. There was a lot out there to soak in, guys, and it's a lot of information. Let me tell you, it's so much information. I have no idea what Lori did for a living. And as you can see, she lives in some pretty nice places. So I don't know what any of her ex-husbands did for a living right now, anything like that. And that's one of my number one topics that I want to cover on my research, because I think it's going to play a huge role as to what's going on here. Because a lot of people are calling Lori Vallow the Black Widow. It seems like she's got to taste for money, probably from one insurance. If we can back that up, this is speculation. I feel like there must have been something there that give her the taste for blood. And what I'm worried about is, I think, you know, Chad coming to this large sum of money. So let's pretend that we know what happened to Tammy. And let's just say, you know, she died of natural causes. What would Lori's interest in Chad be? Well, we know that Chad got a big lump sum of what we're hearing of $450,000. So, you know, she's there with him when he has a large sum of money. Also, if you looked at the house that Chad lived in right before all this happened, this is a huge step for him. Chad is going to Hawaii. He's wearing these super nice clothes. He's doing these amazing photos that he's never even done with his own wife. I mean, he is living this almost of a celebrity status life. And it looks like he has lost himself. Makes me wonder if he's going through a midlife crisis, to be honest. How can you lose yourself so much? I mean, come on. These two have gone crazy. Both Lori and Chad have just, well, we can't find Lori's kids anywhere, can we? I mean, she just totally, we don't know what's happened with those kids. And that's the number one thing we're worried about. That's the reason why I make these videos, is to keep people's interest. She just leaves her kids, let's say. Nobody knows where her kids are. Chad ups and leaves his kids. In fact, in one interview, when police are asking Chad about Lori's children, he claims that Lori doesn't have any young children. For all we know, Chad could have been next on that long list of mishaps happening with the people that are involved with Lori Vallow. You know, is this coincidence? There's a possibility, but most likely not. This is too crazy. Chad's wife dies mysteriously. Okay. This is in October. Shortly after that, it's Brandon Boudreaux. Sorry about that. He has an attempt on his life. Shortly after that, Charles Vallow, shot by Lori Vallow's brother. And they're kind of speculating. They believe that Alex Cox, the brother of Lori, also was involved in that life threat to Brandon. So guys, we're going to have to cover this on part 3. Don't forget, we're still looking for those kids. Those are the important, that's the most important part of this story. And we will be looking when I get more information to cover more on these kids. Because right now, those kids are missing. Still missing. Nobody knows where they're at. Supposedly, Melanie Boudreaux, or used to be Boudreaux, she has an idea. She knows where they're at. It's what we're hearing on some of the documents. But she isn't saying nothing. She has been arrested. Connected. That has to do with the case with her ex-husband. And I wanted to go deeper into that and share more information. But I have to do it the next video, guys. But anyways, I appreciate you guys being here watching this channel. Forgive my mistakes on this one, guys. It's really been tough getting this one out, but I did want to get it finished. I love you guys, and I'll see you guys soon.